Hello and welcome to another episode of Guitar Rescue. You might remember this guitar from an earlier version of Guitar Rescue where we replaced the bridge in this guitar. Well, since then, the guitar decided it wanted to have a little surface crack in it. It did already have a pretty big ding in it, a hole like in it, in the finish. And so what I'm doing here is I am fixing the cracks, and then I'm going to do my best that I can with this finish crack. This was pretty bad when the bridge came off. The finish separated. So we're going to see what we can do. I've already made one crack disappear. So what you're going to need in this episode is some water for color sanding. I bought a package of these little finish sanding things at O'Reilly's, and it goes all the way from I think it went from like 800 grit to 3000 grit. So this is like a 3000. This is the finest you can get. And I already put a little high gloss finish on where I repaired it, and I didn't like the way that the colors matched. So now I'm going to take down the finish pretty much on the whole top, and then I'm going to spray it with the finish again and see if I can get it to match better. So right now I'm in the process of removing the pickguard. Then I will mask up the things that I don't want to get lacquer on them, and then I am going to color sand it down, and then I'm going to lacquer it, and then do it again and see if it all works. And as usual, if it doesn't work, you'll never see the video. We'll be right back. Okay, back again. Here's the pickguard that came off of here. Now we're going to work, and it came off pretty well. Let's get it. There we go. That is like a double-sided glue thing, I believe, that's still on the guitar. So we will slowly remove that. And to get the pickguard this far, I used plastic scrapers. I wasn't going to pull it off, but I pulled up a corner and I thought, you know, this is not going to be that difficult. So I did it using plastic. I didn't scratch anything up. And I believe I'll be able to put it back on. I've already replaced one in the past on a different guitar, and I know you can buy a beautiful double-sided type tape for it that 3M makes it, and then you cut it out around the pickguard and put it on. It sticks on the pickguard and then sticks on the guitar. It'll never come off. So now we got to try to get this glue off. That's the next thing we're working on here. I'll let you know how that comes out. Working on the gluey stuff, this is really tough stuff, so I'm using Gooby Gone, and I'm soaking it and scraping it with plastic scrapers. This is going to take a while. So taking off the pickguard was relatively easy, but removing the glue that's under it is a lot harder. But we're working on it. So I just wanted to show you what this is looking like as we go along, removing the glue from where the pickguard was. And as we go along, I'm going around in little circles with a plastic scraper, and it's starting to get less and less and less glue every time I do it. I go around, I apply the Gooby Gone, let it sit for a while, and then I start scraping it off. And then I'll stop and wipe up that with like a disposable rag, not anything too fuzzy. I just figured that out too. So just an old rag that you got laying around that's cut up in small pieces. You can't use paper because it's glue. So I don't know, can you see it starting to lump up like that? And we're getting it off, and it's starting to get smooth down to the wood. I can feel the wood now. It's gonna come. So this took a lot longer than I thought, but this is a good, if you wanted to replace just your pickguard, this is how you do it. You peel it off real gently, maybe warm it up a little bit, peel it off, and then you're going to have to deal with this glue pad that they use, and then have to get a new glue pad. And I think I can reuse my Pickguard, but if you were changing it to a different color, or you didn't like it, it was cracked, this is the same process that you. So this is coming along pretty good. If you can see the lumps of glue on there that I'm going to clean up. This is what you do if you were replacing just your Pickguard. So we'll be right back. Okay, a few times around, and voila, all the glue is gone from the Pickguard surface. Then what I did is, what I learned about Gooby Gone is nothing wants to stick to it either. So you got to make sure you get rid of that. So I just put a little rubbing alcohol and kind of got all the any Gooby Gone that might have been there. Because now I'm going to color sand it before we do. I'm also going to try to fix this little finish crack right here. It's a little troublesome because it's actually higher up on one side, so it's not level. But I'll put some super glue in here and see if we can make that pretty much disappear. I already removed, there was a crack down here, a surface crack right down here. I super glued it and made it go away. There was also like a hole, you know, in the finish down here. I super glued it. You can still see a color change there, but it's all level. You can't feel anything there. So now we are going to do some sanding of the whole area with super fine sandpaper and water. Okay, now what I did is on this little crack right here, I got some super glue gel, which doesn't immediately set up, gives you a little time. And I slowly put it in that crack. Sometimes you can use a toothpick to make sure that it gets in the right place and not all over the place. But I actually wanted it to get up a little high so that it would soak into the crack that was there. Then I'll come back when it's dry, which will probably be tomorrow before I mess with this. And I have a razor blade with tape on either side of it. And I will scrape down on the super glue till I get it nice and level. And then we'll go to the next step. We'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I want to give you just a quick update on where we are so far. When we last left, I talked about super gluing the little crack here. I let it sit overnight. I came back and I scraped all the excess glue off of the crack. It's never going to be totally gone, but it's way better than it was. So the next thing that I did after that is I roughed up, I got some different grid, probably a 1500 grid sandpaper, and I roughed it all up. Actually, I think I went to something even, let's see. I actually did a 220 once, just a 220 grid sandpaper. Then I went up to the 1500 because I just wanted to just take the glaze off of this, which is what I did. And then I went back to the really fine 1500 and 3000 grid. I'm working on that. Then I cleaned it as best as I can. Again, with rubbing alcohol, trying to get any of the grit off like a tack cloth would do, the best I can do. Then I started to mask. I'm going to mask, obviously, the neck and the bridge. And then I'm going to start shooting it with lacquer, 1 or 2 small coats at a time. When this is wet, with like alcohol or the water when I was sanding, the shine seems to come through okay. So I'm hoping that when the lacquer goes on that we're going to get the full shine. And I'm going to use not a high gloss lacquer here, somewhere between a matte, it's a satin one actually that I'm going to use on this. So it'll have a little different look than it did when I started. And I ordered a new Pickguard because this thing is so cheap and crummy. And to buy the 3M sticky thing to put on here, you can buy a whole new Pickguard. So I'm buying one that has the tortoise look to it instead of just plain black. Match more of the redwood bridge that it has. So I'll be right back. Okay, back again. Just a quick update on where we are today. So we talked about we masked it up, masked the neck, and we masked around the edges. And then this now actually has a couple of 3 very light coats of this satin lacquer. And it is looking really, really good. It's now almost like a matte finish, which I'm actually very happy with that. But I think I will just take the 3000 grit one more time to it, just lightly, clean it off, and shoot it a couple more times. I'm letting a day or so go by in between. Well, I did a couple of those coats yesterday, so then I let a day go by before I'm going to put the final coat on. But I'm very happy with it so far. So we'll be back. Okay, we're in the final steps of the guitar refinish, crack repair, and pickguard change. So I put a couple more coats of the satin lacquer on here. I color sanded it after a couple of days. I let it dry. I think I said 3000 grit, but I believe it was 2000 grit sandpaper that I was using. And a dry paper towel. I wet sanded it, but also a dry paper towel is kind of like a fine sandpaper, so you can get little teeny things off. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to, as soon as it's all, I'm sure that it's totally dry from the wet sanding, I am going to install its new pickguard, which this is the old one that came off, new one going on. I ordered one that was just a little bit bigger than the one that I took off because, as you can see, over 40 some odd years, there's a color difference in the wood. So I wanted to make sure that I covered that. And then once I take this sticky stuff off to put it on there, it's not going to move. So I've been dry testing it a bunch of times, and I put some tape down so that I believe that I can take it off and set it flat and have it even. But I'm not going to have you watch me do that. I'll be too nervous, so I'll be back. Okay, that was pretty easy actually. So what I did was I peeled back part of the paper as I went. I peeled it halfway back, and I had it all taped, if you remember. And as I laid it down, made sure I got it perfect, then I pulled the rest of the 3M paper off the back of the sticky thing. So all that's left to do now is put some polish on it and string it up and enjoy it. So I'll be back when it's done. Okay, we're all done. Here she is. This is about a 1978 Sigma guitar by Martin. This had been sitting in a storage unit for years and years and years, so it's 40 years old. So in this episode, we replaced the pickguard, we fixed a couple of cracks, and we sprayed the whole top with a satin lacquer. This is what we used right here. It worked really, really well. To me, it's kind of got more of a matte finish, which I like. It's not really glossy at all. So anyway, there's the lacquer we used. We fixed a couple cracks in it. We used super glue, original super glue, but the gel, which takes time to set up, and so you've got time to fix your mistakes if you make any. And you saw how we did it. So again, this is an inexpensive guitar that I use to make these videos with. But stay tuned for the next one. We're going to put a LR Baggs Element VT pickup in a Martin Dreadnought. That's probably in the next episode. And we're going to actually refinish the top of a Guild acoustic guitar in an upcoming video. So stick around.